Hey, it's Stacey from Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs and the Gardening Simplified Show. And what I'm going to show you today is how to prune a young tree. This beautiful tree right here is a new member of the Proven Winners Color Choice tree line. This is Midnight Express Redbud, or Cercis. It has black foliage and pink flowers. It's an absolutely gorgeous plant, but it has two issues that we're going to be addressing today. Number one, it has a little bit of winter damage to these branches from the heavy snow that we had this winter and late fall. And it has some crazy growth here. Now this could turn into something very interesting and poetic on the tree, but as you can see, all of this crisscrossing, that can cause long-term problems for the tree, in that if they were to break, they could really disfigure the tree to the point where you might have to take it out and replace it, and you don't want that. So a little bit of preventative pruning right now, while the tree is young, means a lot of investment in its long-term success. So it's worth doing. And another advantage of pruning a tree when it's young like this is you can use simple tools, and that's what I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using some hand pruners and a folding pruning saw. Whereas if this tree were to get a lot bigger and you were going to have to do corrective pruning then, you'd have to use a chainsaw or something much bigger, and it would be a lot less safe and simple. So we're just going to take advantage of the time and go ahead and do it. The first thing I'm going to do is remove these damaged branches, because by getting them out of the way first, I should be able to have a little bit better access to the parts of the plant that I'm trying to prune correctively. So when you prune a tree branch, this is a big difference typically from how you prune shrubs. You want to do what's called unweighting the branch. And so that means weight, like how much you weigh. You want to take some of this weight off, because if you were to prune this with this heavy branch on there, what can happen when you're doing the actual cut is it can cause this whole thing to just strip down and make a huge scar, peeling away the bark. It's a really bad scene, so you don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do, go ahead and support it here and just take off these branches so that the branch is a little bit lighter. And make sure you're supporting the part next to the tree as you do this. Okay, so as you can see, that's a lot lighter and shorter now. And because the damage has kind of already happened here because of the snow load, we don't have a lot of choice about where we're going to make this pruning cut. We're just going to have to make it the best we can. So I'm actually going to move to the other side of the tree. There we go. I'm going to move this one out of the way. And then, here's a little trick no one tells you. Your pruners have two sides. They have this side with the gear and this flat side. And when you're pruning, you want to try to put the flat side towards the plant itself and this to the branch that you're pruning off. That helps you get a lot closer. So normally you would not really use this to prune a tree. But like I said, since this is already pretty thin, actually, I don't think this is big enough. So change of plans. I decided I'm actually going to use the pruning saw to complete this cut. Once I started getting in there with my pruners, I realized it was way too thick. So this pruning saw, I love these things. You've heard me talk about them before. They have the safety button here. You just push that in, pull it out, and then that locks it in place. So as you're sawing, it doesn't collapse on your hand. So very handy. And what we're going to do is actually cut up towards the damage. We're going to try to make a small hinge. So when I was pruning those damaged branches, the decision as to where I was going to make those cuts was kind of made for me by Mother Nature. Wherever that damage happens, I need to get it off. But when you are pruning live branches like this, you're pruning them off, there's a really super important concept you need to know, and that is the branch bark collar. And basically the branch bark collar is the area where the branch meets the trunk of the tree or the next largest branch. And on some trees, this is very easy to see. On other trees, it can be quite difficult to see. Fortunately, on this redbud, it's actually pretty easy to see. So wherever you see this ridge, you want to make your cut outside of that. You want to do your best to never ever cut inside the branch bark collar. The branch bark collar is where the greatest zone of healing is. So that if you've ever seen like a nicely healed tree pruning cut where it just all kind of comes together and covers that hole, that's a good pruning cut where the branch bark collar has healed completely. If you cut into the branch bark collar, then often what you get is a cut that won't heal, or it exposes more of the pruning cut to damage. So you want to do your best to identify that and make sure you're cutting outside of the branch bark collar. So these are the 2 branches that I need to prune. And as for what order I'm going to prune them in, I would recommend that you take out the one first. It's going to give you the greater ability to prune out the other. Sometimes that can be a tricky decision. It's really hard to generalize about these situations because this is natural growth. Again, this doesn't indicate that anything was wrong with the way the tree was grown or something wrong with the tree itself. It's just the way the tree grew. So again, what we're going to want to do is go ahead and unweight the branch, take that weight off so we don't get any ripping or tearing. Okay, so now we're left with this. I'm going to see if I can shorten it a touch more. Great. So here, this is a forked branch. This ridge right here, that's the branch bark collar in the case of a fork branch. For this one, the branch bark collar is down here. You can see this swelling where it meets the tree. When in doubt, if you can't tell where the branch bark collar is, always err on the side of caution and make it further from the branch bark collar. It's a lot easier for the plant to heal with a little stub left than if you cut into that branch bark collar because of all the cellular activity in there. Okay, and as far as timing, obviously you can tell it's pretty cold today. You really want to do this whenever you can, especially with the damaged branches. Do your best to always get those out of the way as soon as possible because you never know what kind of damage they could cause. We're about to get a bunch more wet snow tomorrow, so I wouldn't have wanted to let those branches sit, get more wet snow on them, and then risk ripping this down. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pruning saw here to make this cut. I can identify the branch bark collar, also known as the branch bark ridge, and I'm just going to start cutting. And the nice thing about most pruning saws is they're push-pull saws, so they cut on both strokes. So you're getting double the action for the energy you put into it. Now, as you're working, you do want to come around and check on the other side. I could be making this cut probably a little bit more angled than I am, but again, you want to err on the side of caution, and you definitely want to make sure, watch the tip of your saw, so you're not cutting into this main trunk and causing even more damage. And sometimes what you'll find is these saws do jam because of the weight of the branch. But you just work your way around it. You won't look elegant doing this, trust me. Okay, there's that. Okay, and now I'm still going to take out this branch, I think, because again, it's really putting a lot of weight on this. And it's so close to the main trunk that you can really see how if in future years this branch gets bigger, holds onto a bunch of wet, heavy snow, it could rip this whole thing down. So it's better to take out this branch. So once again, we'll get the pruners, unweight this branch. So it's not exactly easy. Again, you're going to have to do the best you can. I give you the best practices that you can implement, but you're going to find that whatever situation you're dealing with is going to require some maybe creative problem solving. So here what we're going to do is we're going to start from underneath. Obviously, we can't get the saw from the top edge because it's so close to the branch or so close to the trunk. Okay, and there we go. Okay, that's actually a pretty clean cut considering how tricky that was. All right, so it is unfortunate that we did have to remove so much, not from a plant health perspective, but of course we want our trees to be lush and full. As you can see, this plant had tons of buds on it. It was going to be absolutely gorgeous in flower. It still is. It's just going to have a bit fewer flowers than it would have. Now, before we wind up, I do want to show you something, and I've shown this in other videos, but I think it's such a good trick. You can see that these pruning cuts are really, really fresh and obvious. So what I like to do is just take a bit of soil and rub it into the cut. Now, this isn't something that you do to help it heal faster or it doesn't have any plant health benefit, but it does help them to blend in a little bit more so it's not like, whoa, that tree was just pruned. You don't have to do it, it's optional, but I personally typically do it because I do prefer the look of it just being a little bit more blended in. All right, now remember I said this was simple, not easy. It is a little bit tricky, and every time you have to do this, you're gonna find there's slightly different conditions that you have to adapt to. But as long as you know those basic techniques and that safety stop of unweighting the branch before you make the cut, you should have pretty good success. So this also might be the first time that you're hearing about Proven Winners Color Choice trees, but surprise, we have trees now. 2024 and 2025 are gonna be the first year where these trees start coming onto market in good supply at the garden center. So if you are looking for a beautiful, tried and tested tree to add to your landscape, check out Proven Winners Color Choice trees. Just go to provenwinnerscolorchoice.com. Please don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. And if you have any questions, you can leave a comment below or you can reach us anytime at provenwinnerscolorchoice.com. Thanks for watching.